So in Module 10, we're going to make this object here, which is a circular object, looks like a cage. You can think of it as a bell tower or part of a bell tower or some mechanical part. On it, we'll notice that it's in fact a group. And if we double click that, inside are individual groups. So that's an important thing to remember, that you can nest groups within groups, just like you can nest folders within folders on your desktop. So to make this, it's going to actually be quite similar to the module where we did the house with the wall, floor, and roof slabs. Here we've got a floor slab, we've got a roof slab. You can see right away those are going to be exactly the same. But the hard part is going to be these columns, and especially columns that look like they're arrayed in a circular fashion. To make this, the first thing I'm going to show very briefly is just how to use the rotate tool. The shortcut is it's Q actually. And let's say we had an object on the ground, 5 foot by 5 foot square. Let's make that a group. To use the rotate tool, you're going to treat it like a move tool, so you're going to have an object selected typically at the start. Switch to the rotate command. And the rotate command is a three-part step process. You're going to specify a center of rotation, and then you're going to specify a starting angle or a reference line, and then you're going to sweep that line, which is going to create the angle of rotation for the object. Let's say we wanted to rotate from a corner of the cube, of the square. You're going to select that as your first step, and also notice that it's then going to decide that you're going to be rotating in the ground plane. But we can also see that that will change later. So now you're going to specify a sweep plane, and just like a vector, it doesn't really matter where you start from here. It just matters what the difference is in the next step. Let's say that we were just going to arbitrarily pick a direction over here on the red side. Click once, and then from here is really where the change happens, and you're going to sweep a direction from here. Notice that the angle is updating itself in real time on the bottom, and you're just really pinching and twisting, just like if you were moving. And of course, you can also make the binary choice of one direction or the other, positive or negative degrees of rotation, and then you can switch to the keyboard and type in that angle. So let's say we wanted to move this cube 90 degrees. Then we would move in one direction, type in 90, enter, and it's moved that much. Okay, so that's the rotate tool. Now let's try to make this, this piece right here. So the slabs are 10-foot diameter circles with a 1-foot thickness. So we're going to use the circle tool, pick an arbitrary center, and then go outwards 5 feet with the radius, enter. And then we're going to switch to the push-pull command, and then we're going to lift this up 1 foot. So we finish the bottom piece. And we're going to go ahead and immediately make it a group or a component. Depends on strategically, if you think you're going to want to modify many of these later on. In our case, there's only 2, so I wouldn't care so much. Now we want to make these columns, and it looks like an individual piece is a 1-foot diameter cylinder that's projected upwards 8 feet. So we can actually go ahead and make that object anywhere in the space. So let's just out here make a 6-inch radius circle, and then lift it up 8 feet. Now we got our part, and then we got to locate that part. Now here, let's make a component, just in case later on you want to change this. I mean, in the final thing you want to build, there's quite a few of them. Just going to triple click this, and then we're going to right click, make a component. Now we want to position this in a way that it looks like it's going to be 6 inches away from the edge. Do that a number of ways. But I'm going to also show you really quickly that you can find the center of a circle as a point to start with. And the way to do that is to hold your cursor over the edge for about 1 to 2 seconds. And then from there, it will snap onto the center of the circle. And you're just hovering over this point, but then from here you can just click, and then you'll have grabbed the center. That's a really, really useful property for circles, because otherwise it would be kind of hard to find where the center is. Now from here, let's create a line off to the edge. This will act like a measurement line or guideline. Because from here, now we have a line which tells us the center and an edge. And we can also create another guide, which will get us to either the center or the edge of where this column should go. So since this column is 1 foot in diameter, then if we go 1 foot from the edge of the circle and put a 1 foot line there, then we've created a node which will be exactly where the center of this column should be. So theoretically, you could actually have made your column starting from here. And actually, let's just go ahead and try that. So one thing you might want to do is actually go ahead and even turn these two lines into its own group, just so it doesn't stick to our column. You still have the ability to find that endpoint. You'll notice that now it turns purple instead of green because it's within a group. And now let's just make our 1 foot diameter, our 1 inch, our 6-inch radius column. Pull it up 8 feet, and then let's make that a complement. Delete this first one we made. And we could delete this guideline as well at this point, but we can also delete it later. So now we want to sweep this column, because to get it to any other location, you can imagine using the rotate tool. Select the column, you click Q or find the button, and then you have it selected. You can pick a rotation point that's outside of the object. So let's put it at the center of this larger slab. And then let's use the sweep angle, and just to sort of simplify things in our own minds, let's use this initial line as a sweep angle. And then with your mouse, it's almost as if then you have the ability to sort of swing this column around and place it somewhere else. So that's going to allow us to get to every possible location of the full columns. And of course, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, we can also use the clone tool here. So in the middle of the rotate command, just go ahead and type control or command. Now you've left one where the original was. And you can even use the multiply feature we experimented with in the previous module. If we knew that all of these columns were 30 degrees away from each other, we could sweep one in one direction, 30 degrees, click enter, and then X, however many, goes all the way around, in which case would be 11. Oops, sorry. Okay, sweep it, 30 degrees, X, 11. So we've made all of them all the way around. Now let's say that you didn't get that math correctly, or you were just doing some, you didn't know the angle, but you knew how many columns you wanted to be evenly spaced around. And instead of using X, we can use the divide command, which basically gets at the same thing, but instead of making 1 over, a clone 1 over, you'd make the last clone, and then you divide as many times as you want within that. So in this case, what we want to do is make a clone 360 degrees away from the original, which in fact will create a duplicate right in its existing location, but we can simply delete that duplicate later. So we're going to select the column and then use the rotate command, start again the reference point from the center, use a sweep, and arbitrarily we're just going to select this line that we've already placed. Then we're going to be in the sweep mode. We're going to hit Control or Command, and then it doesn't matter whichever direction you go, because you're just going to go right back to the beginning by typing 360 degrees. Hit Enter. It looks like nothing happened, but if you understand that command, we've just duplicated a column in the same location. But now we're going to type in, instead of X, we're going to do slash, as in dividing. And then we could say, let's divide by 4. See what that looks like. Enter. And just like that, it's created 4 columns evenly spaced between 360 degrees and 0. Of course, you can update this. You can switch to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And with 11, actually with 12, we're back to what we'd have gotten before. And all you simply have to do, if you wanted to at this point, is delete the duplicate you had made. and then you can delete this guide measurement we've had. So that's two ways of getting to this array of 12 columns. And then the final step is simply to make the roof slab, and from here you can just clone the bottom slab. You can just clone it upwards 9 feet. Click M. Select anywhere. You can even select it out in the middle of nowhere. And then you're going to align to the blue tool. Now you're going upwards. And you can type in 9 feet just because you know that geometry. But also, if you started your reference point from the bottom, you can come over here and you can try to align. Just hover your cursor over something that's in the same plane as where you want to end up, which in fact in this case is any of these columns. And that's a nice way to deal with that without having made any actual inputs of dimensions. Now notice I had just forgotten to do the clone command there, so I'm just do that one more time. And in the middle of that move command, simply have to click Control. Clone command.